I'd like to introduce the panel, but Roxanne, thank you for doing the story. It's so powerful, and I know
So much.
it's going to help a lot of people. And I'm just always moved myself when I see it. Let me ask Celia, would you be okay with starting your
Sure, I'm a little emotional about this. Some of it I can identify as someone who's been in the hospital and voluntary committed and given different kinds of psychiatric drugs. But I want to say that your courage is just, and strength is like amazing. I cringed a little bit at some of it because even today, I don't even tell medical doctors that, I was diagnosed or I'm depressed. I skip over those questions because I'm afraid that they're going to look into me and my diagnosis. It's very sad that I can't fully be who I am in the medical profession. I have to be a different person so I can get the kind of medical care that I need. So, I was struck by them taking your kids away, and I know here in the U.S., even if you have a diagnosis of a mental illness, that's grounds to take custody of your children, and it's just absurd. And I wish that these laws would change. But towards the end, I was teary because you have won your case. You put in everything that's happened in your life, including your dad sexually harassing you and your mom. And I know that happens in families. I also want to say that I was a part of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I went to most of the meetings. And when it was adopted in March, when the UN adopted it in March 2006, Jamaica was the first country to ratify it. And I was so proud of that. And I wish you could have known about that all these years. And we're very proud of the convention because we not only we include everybody with disabilities and psychiatric disability. We're very clever in getting that involved because just having a mental illness or diagnosis doesn't really guarantee you the rights. But in this convention, I'm very hopeful. And Canada also has ratified it as well. So I'm going to stop there, but I'm so proud to know you and get to know you by watching this film. And I'm just hoping more success and more people see this and get educated and kind of, look at their lives and see what they can do, to protect their rights. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we go on to the next panelist, Roxanne, I don't know if you saw the question from Fred Pelka. He thanked you, and he asked you if you ever considered being an attorney or a journalist.
You know what? I did. Funnily enough, last year I applied to law school. So I did try. I didn't get high enough on the LSAT, and then I would have to take it over again. But I feel more drawn to making film. I think that media has a very powerful impact if I want to make social changes. So I think I'm going to pursue that method.
Chuck, would you
Sure.
like to speak next?
Yeah, Roxanne, it's incredible what you've done. And I'm amazed at your persistence, despite everything going against you. It's a shame that things like this are happening all the time, not just in Jamaica or not just in Canada, but all over the world. There are atrocities like these, and they're all unfortunately based on the false proposition that emotional distress, like you experienced, problematic behaviors, things like that are something for the medical profession to handle. But what actually is happening is those problems are really morally judged by that medical professional, and then moral means are taken to try to get you in line with what they think is a better way to be. but it has nothing to do with medicine in most cases. But certainly, some medical assistance can help with people who are suffering some poor health and things like that. But basically, the problems that we call mental illness are emotional distress and problematic behaviors that are not due to biomedical malfunctioning. And that's openly admitted, yet to this very day, not only is that the lay view of things, but also if you go to a psychiatrist today anywhere and they prescribe something and you ask them why you're prescribing this, they will say it's to correct some kind of chemical problem in your brain, which is patently untrue, yet it continues. But yeah, I think that you you have a lot to be proud of, and that people can, they can look at what you've done and get some hope for their own problems. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Move on to Peter Stasny, Dr. Peter Stasny, and then we'll have time for questions, and we'll stay, some of us will stay as long as people have questions or we become exhausted. Peter? You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Roxanne, for this incredibly courageous work of speaking truth to power, speaking truth to psychiatric power, but not only to psychiatric power, even speaking truth to your family and speaking truth to even some lawyers who didn't see your case. So that's amazing. And you also paid a price in there. We see a number of occasions where you're paying a price for the energy and the power and the difficulty that it took to carry this through. So I just wanted to congratulate you and tell you, you go you fall in a very important tradition with speaking truth to power, especially psychiatry, with film and with the words of the psychiatrists and the words of the perpetrators, if you will, and the oppressors, which is usually a very hard thing to do. You know, there's a filmmaker by the name of Richard Cohen, who maybe Ron and others know, who has done this in California and who went back to the ward where he was tortured and mistreated and restrained and filmed the doctors doing it. And it was really an intense, courageous thing. So I hope you, maybe Richard, I think he's still around. I hope you meet him. There's another interesting story that this reminds me of. Jean-Paul Sartre, the great French philosopher, published a story once about a man. It was called The Man and the Tape Recorder. It was about a patient of a psychoanalyst who one day came to the session, sat down and lied down on the couch and put a tape recorder on his chest and pressed the record button and didn't say anything. And the psychoanalyst started to freak out, started to literally lose his shit, as they say. And what do you think the end result was?
Well, what was it?
Well, take a guess, anybody.
Did he like did he press charges for like recording the
No, the patient was committed to a mental institution.
Oh my God.
So that goes to show the power and the risk of speaking truth to power. And you, I do want to say, because I've been dealing with the kinds of situations in the United States and internationally where people get abused in ways that fortunately you did not have to experience even a 10th or a 100th of what many people go through. But nevertheless, you can set an example. If you just imagine what people, if people could follow your example in situations where they've literally been restrained for weeks and months in solitary confinement in countries all over the world, including in the United States, as an example. And if everybody was becoming a refugee, I guess where would they all go? Where is the safe place where psychiatry doesn't have the ability to do that? There's probably not a single country. Maybe Costa Rica. You had the Catalina de Vandas in there, who is an amazing woman, and she is from Costa Rica. And I think there was a law passed now to make it illegal that doctors can commit people in Costa Rica. And I think Italy also has a law that makes it illegal for doctors without lawyers and without courts and without magistrates to commit people. So anyway, thank you so much for this, and I wish you the best for your future and your career and for the film.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Peter. We're open to questions right now. If you submit questions on chat or the question and answer, and you could direct it at a person on the panel or Roxanne. So I'll try to look that over.
You know, I'm sorry. I forgot to say one important thing. I'm sorry to jump in before. You know, one question this film raises also one important question. How could this be prevented? What could be done in the beginning when somebody goes through situations that are difficult and extreme sometimes to prevent future mistreatment, to prevent it? This is something I've been thinking about all the time. Now your next film might give the answer to that.
I'll try and respond to that, Peter, and then open it up. I think the public education of people is really important. I know all of us have tried in various ways to bring out a different paradigm for what people want and need. And there are very, very few alternatives, but I feel that this film is very important because it touches at a very visceral level what can happen to someone who is having issues. So anybody else is welcome to respond to that provocative question that Peter asked.
Yeah, I think it is unfortunate, and Ron, you indicated this, is there's very few options. I hesitate to recommend that people just don't go see a psychiatrist or a mental health professional, but sometimes that's the step that they take that gets them tied up into this cascade of just one interpretation after another. You know, once you get labeled, then everything after that gets interpreted in light of that label. So Roxanne, when you were labeled bipolar, every single thing you did after that, you'll notice everyone kind of looked at that, oh, that's your bipolar. And it isn't. It's not that bipolar causes you to do that. It's just that they label you bipolar when you do that. And if you have that diagnosis in your record, it's hard to act in so-called sane ways, because the diagnostic categories, the definitions of all the mental illness diagnoses are so inclusive and broad that any kind of a problem that somebody experiences can be articulated as a mental disorder that then requires some kind of treatment against your will, if you don't agree.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, you kind of buy into it as well. I mean, like, for me, being given this diagnosis, right? And then everybody kind of telling me, oh, isn't it, maybe it's your bipolar. And then I think, oh, well, maybe it is, you know, right. Maybe that's why. And it's also, I think what is extremely dangerous about that too is it makes you very vulnerable to gaslighting, because even when something is happening, I mean, my mother would regularly gaslight me about my father's inappropriate behavior. Oh, maybe you're remembering it wrong. And remember, you know, you tend to mention this when you're ill and, you know, and stuff. So just the gaslighting and manipulation that you're very vulnerable to once you have this labeled diagnosis. You know, nobody will take you seriously. And if you try to confront a situation, you will be gaslit, like, regularly.
Right, and think about it, the whole idea of mental disorder basically is that your mental faculties are flawed. So if that's true, then everything you say and experience and do is flawed, including your memories, including your values, your desires. Everything can be said to be driven by this alleged flaw that frankly doesn't exist.
Yeah. Actually, it was the years of constantly being questioned and being constantly doubted, which made me, I didn't know what the term gaslighting was until I came to Canada, but like that was what made me record everything. I'm like, I'm gonna put this on my phone. I would because I knew nobody would believe me. Nobody's gonna believe you because they never do. You know, it's 13 years of never being believed. So that's what kind of allowed me then to really document this journey and be able to show people what happened.
Right.
There was a question that I think is an important one. And this actually, I guess it goes to you, Roxanne. It's the question, how can we get this film shown in different communities? And that was suggested by Carolyn Green. But I think it's up to you, Roxanne, but I think if you gave out your email address, I think some people might want to bring you into different communities to show this.
Yeah, actually, I'll put the website, because I do have a website for the film. It's a psychiatricrefugee.com. I'll put it in the chat as well, but you can contact me through the website and email me there, and like people can get me through it.
And you know, of course, that we will be glad at MindFreedom to help you get future showings.
Yeah, we would too at ISEPP if you wanted to forward anything to me. And I have a relatively large following on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our listserv, and also my emailing list. I'd be glad to just send it out to make everyone aware of it. That's what I was doing prior to the showing tonight, was to try to get as many people interested.
Thank you.
In watching.
Yeah, I would really like it
Yeah.
shown.
I think you have
I
my
will do
email.
that too. I will promote it too, Roxanne.
Thank
Sure.
you. Thank you.
Jay had a couple of questions, and these came up on the chat about the United States and Canada. They each have their problems, and in my experience, there's some places that are a little better, some countries, some that are a little better than others, but this is a worldwide issue. There's really not a lot of safe places for people if they're vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really was what just blew my mind was that I wasn't in an episode when this happened. So which was, well, it was completely unjust, but my father knew I wasn't in an episode too, so that's why he wasn't going along with what this doctor, because we like literally just had a great conversation in her waiting room and stuff. So when this happened, like it was clear to him that nothing's wrong with her, but he didn't. It's so funny. It's really annoying. But my dad, being a lawyer, he rubs shoulders with a lot of, Jamaica's high society professionals. So other lawyers, doctors, politicians, and whatever. So it's like he knew that I wasn't sick and wasn't warranting anything, but he did not want to fight with this doctor. Like he was kind of gently like, well, do you think that, but he was scared of her, which was annoying. Like, you're the sane one here. You should be, so yeah, so I wasn't in an episode, when this was happening. And I think it was apparent to the judge as well, because, you know, the thing was, if she was that sick, why is it that her dad was not going along with this? So, I mean, that's good, because clearly now I'm having the clarity of mind to be able to record. But you know, for persons who are like in a compromised mental state, you know, that's, you know, there's like absolutely, you're so vulnerable, you know, and stuff. But it really blew my mind. Well, this was the first time I was even seeing this whole human rights abuse issue, you know, and stuff. I had heard whispers of it, but, you know, not being exposed to it, I would be like, why would a doctor do that? I don't understand. And, you know, so sitting there, knowing that I'm saying, knowing that my father knows that I'm saying, and sitting there and being threatened, you know, it just really blew my mind. And yeah, it just really opened my eyes. There are a lot of people that could be in hospital and they're not sick. Like, this is crazy. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that you showed that really impressed me with, you remain perceptive and clear through a lot of this. I know when I went through my experiences, I was fighting all the time and got the worst treatment. You had enough sense to keep your mouth shut at the right times. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, thank you. I knew immediately, like, remain calm, because now, you know what, if I had started recording her from the start, I think my case would have been a lot easier, because she actually started getting very adversarial, like very angry. Like, my father literally told her, oh, you know, Roxanne's afraid of the medication. She's had such a hard time with the side effects. And like, she literally goes, oh yeah, well then I'm gonna drug you with olanzapine diazepam. Like, she just lists off, and she's very angry. And it really sounds as if she, you know, she wants to teach me a lesson. You know, if I had started recording her from then, the judge would have been able to see everything, right? But unfortunately, I didn't get that part. But when she went like that, I knew that she's looking for a fight. She's looking for you to either freak out or get angry, and she's going to use that to justify forced treatment and taking you in. So don't fight with this lady. There's even a point, I may not have included it in the film. You can watch actually the full recording at psychiatricrefugee.com, but there's even a point where I'm agreeing with her, you know, let's play along and see what happens. Let's use reverse psychology, you know, because my dad is like, why is it, I mean, is she sick from baby hormones? Why is it that she didn't have an episode the last time she was pregnant? And then the doctor's like, she didn't have enough stressor. She didn't have as much stressor. And I was like, and I wasn't working at the time either, you know, kind of like, you know, like trying to use reverse psychology to show I'm agreeing with you. Yes. You know, to see how that works. But I knew, like, don't fight with this woman, because she will totally use this against you. So I could at least see ahead.
It's like fighting with the police.
This monthly Judy's Room that we do is named after Judy Chamberlain, who was a pioneer in the psychiatric survivor movement. But just as a counterpoint to all you've said and what's being said, is Judy wrote a terrific article about the people who fight the hardest, who won't allow their spirit to be broken when in the hospital, are the ones that get the worst treatments. But the ones that survive that go on to transform their experience and become the most active activists. It's an interesting article, and it's an interesting concept.
Ron Thompson has a question. You want me to say it, or you want?
Sure. Who's it directed at?
It doesn't say. It's just how many listened, watched this remarkable documentary. So do you mean now on this webinar, or?
There were 71 watched this one, but before this, Roxanne had posted the video. I don't know if it was the finished product or, the same one.
It was the same version, yes.
Yeah, 21,000 viewed it on YouTube. And it really demands a lot more people watching.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did really well with my Jamaican audience, because I through my Facebook and through my social media, I was able to get a lot of Jamaicans to watch it, and the response was amazing. Like, it was really an incredible response.
Peter?
I mean, I want to answer my own questions before, because I see in your example that it still takes 12 years sometimes to find the movement for rights. And one of the things that Celia, Ron, many others have done is get former patients to become advocates and supporters. And I always said they should start with the people that come into the system first, and not wait 30 years or 12 years or 10 years and then engage people who've already been so damaged and harmed. So I think that's one answer. But another thing that needs to be mentioned is the idea of the advanced directive. Now, I don't want to get too far into it, but that's one thing that people could use, especially people like you who are smart and legal minded and have a lawyer for a father. They could use this concept of making decisions ahead of time for the future. Anyway, but I'm just throwing that out. Most people probably
Just
know.
as a little plug for MindFreedom International, on our website, there is psychiatric advanced directives and explanations about it for people to have. I agree completely with you, Peter, and that's why we do our SHIELD program. We can't reach everybody, but is to get people away from the forced treatment, out of the hospital where they're confined. What I like to think of is that 95% of the people who are faced with forced medication and containment are being treated the way perhaps 5 or less percent of the people who might need an intervention are treated. But that's just my numbers. I have no proof of it.
There's a question by Fred Palka. He's asking me what my status is in Canada and if I'm interested in becoming a Canadian citizen. So my status in Canada right now, I'm a protected person or refugee, but they give you that official status as protected person. I have applied for permanent residence for myself and my son Benjamin. My younger son Salem was born here, so he's a Canadian citizen already. But I am interested in, once I've lived as a permanent resident long enough, I'll be eligible for Canadian citizenship. So we've applied, and COVID has slowed everything down, but we're on our way to that.
I'm looking at one sort of a comment question on the chat, which says a psychiatrist can override an advanced directive in Indiana. That's true. An advanced directive can always be overridden. However, if you're building a case for yourself and you have some support, the advanced directive can provide something for you to substantiate what you're trying to do. Also, there's a piece of an advanced directive that you can say, if you are in this situation where you're hospitalized against your will or because even voluntarily, you can say, this is what I want for my treatment. This is what I don't want. For example, I've had Haldol in the past forced on me, and I've had a severe reaction to it. So under no circumstances have Haldol prescribed for me. Now, those are not binding, but they can help you in certain ways.
Oh, there are a couple questions. I see question, how did you keep believing in your own self, instincts, and experiences when so many psychiatrists, lawyers, even your own family, through barriers at every turn. Well, for that, I just have to say that I am a person of faith. I am deeply religious, deeply spiritual. I've used that for my mental health, and how I deal with my mental health challenges. And I knew that God could see everything. I'm like, if there's one person who knows that this is unfair, it must be God. So he's going to help me. And I didn't really believe in myself so much as I knew that God is a just God and he'll give me justice somehow. So me and my kids, we would light a little candle every night and say, dear God, please grant us protection in Canada, and stuff like that helped me keep believing, even when people were telling me to my face, listen, this is ridiculous, you're going to get sent back. Right? I said, it's just because they can't see everything that's going on. So I'm deeply spiritual, and that's what kept me going.
There's some back and forth on the chat about whether Canada had approved of the United Nations.
I think that they did. I
Okay.
think that they did. I mean, I could look it up, but I'm pretty sure that they did.
I
The
have
US
information
has
of that. So they agreed to the convention, but they have a reservation for Article 12. So the Canadian Psychiatric Association actually made a public statement about it, saying that, listen, we agree with the convention, but Article 12 we just cannot agree to.
That
So,
was legal capacity, which
right.
is it's hard to get. I know I used to know it by heart, but it's that everybody has a right to legal capacity, basically. And maybe they don't think that for people with psychiatric diagnosis. So it's a struggle still,
Yeah, and the mental health laws aren't the same all over Canada. I would say Ontario has the most progressive mental health laws. I mean, if I had asked for refugee protection in British Columbia, this would not have won, right? Because as a matter of fact, in British Columbia, if you even walk in, say you're having depression or something, and you just like to see a doctor, they can actually involuntarily hospitalize you right then and there without you being a threat or anything like that. And like once you've walked into a hospital, they'll say, we will administer the treatment as we see fit, and you no longer have a say. So if this had happened in British Columbia, I probably wouldn't have won.
Yeah. Wow.
Celia, do you know where the United States is with ratifying? I know we haven't.
I don't know, and with everything happening, I don't even know if they're focusing on it. But there were some reservations about it, and it went back and forth, and Eric Rosenthal was involved with that, and his organization too.
Somebody asked in the chat if my kids get to see their dad or their grandparents. So only through WhatsApp and Skype. Romaine has never been able to come up, and then when COVID happened that shut down the borders. So me and my parents, we didn't talk for 2 years actually when this happened, but I started talking back to them last year, and so we've been making peace. It's not perfect, but yeah, so the reason that they haven't been able to, I mean, they came when I had the baby. So they've seen their grandchildren, but yeah, so COVID has kind of locked that down.
I'm kind of fading, guys. I'm gonna go soon.
I am too.
Well, Ron is wide awake because he's 2 hours behind us. So
Right.
Yeah, thank you for participating, Peter. I miss you.
I miss you
Yeah,
too.
well,
Meet you, Peter.
we'll see each other. Nice to meet you. Take
Thank you
care,
so
everybody.
much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Stay in touch. Now, you have my email. If you want contacts in Canada, be in touch. I know a lot of people up there and
Thank
in
you.
Toronto. And so, not a lot of people, but a couple good people.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Take care. How
You
do I
too.
get out of here?
Yeah, Peter. Click leave.
Oh, I just leave.
Yeah. Celia, appreciate your making the time to get here.
Yeah, I'm kind of fading, but I'm very inspired and this helps me a lot. And I am so excited to help you promote it. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. And Chuck, it's good to see your face. I always see
You too.
email, but not.
Right,
So,
right.
Ron, thank you. And thanks everyone.
Take
Oh,
care.
wow. There's like a whole
Talk soon.
section of Q&A.
Well, we're still here. I don't know how much longer you're going to stay, Chuck, but I'll stay for a while. Same thing.
How longer? Yeah. I see that Jay said that he loved my book, or she, I'm not sure which. Thank you for letting me know that.
Oh, someone asked if I would write a book about this, and I actually did start writing a book. Then I thought to like, well, to make it more accessible, especially for Jamaicans that are from all walks of life, I decided that like video. Well, also I wanted to show people what happened. Like I had recordings, so I wanted to show people what happened and not just tell it. So, I mean, yeah, I would love to get back to writing the book, but yeah, I just thought that video would be the best.
I agree with, I think that the movie, the video is far more impactful because you could be there and see what you experienced directly, especially in your recordings.
Yeah, and just to let people know, like I put some film extras on a psychiatricrefugee.com. So you can, the psychiatric patient who gave his testimony, you can see his full interview. There's an interview I actually did with Francisco Rico Martinez, who is a human rights lawyer who told me that I was just gonna get sent back. So I did an interview with him, and he kind of goes through like why these always fail in his experience. So stuff like that is on the website. I was thinking too of like subtitling like the hearings, but they're just so long. They're like hours long. So I might do like some highlights of like the hearings that just weren't in the film.
There's a question from Amelia.
It's Emmy Rainwalker.
Asked, has there been any pushback from the Jamaican doctors?
I am actually expecting pushback. So I haven't gotten pushback yet, but my mother has told me that people call her and my father to say, have you seen what Roxanne has put on the internet? So, and she said like some big lawyers were calling her, and I don't know, I don't think they were representing anybody or saying anything. Like my father's a lawyer, so they all know him. So like I guess particularly about my dad, they were very concerned. But so far I have not gotten any kind of subpoena or anything like that. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
You know, one of the things that I see in your film and I wonder about, anybody who writes from an autobiographical perspective or makes a movie about their life has to make decisions about how revealing they would be, and the question of what will it do to the people that you actually mention. I'm just wondering how you felt doing that and dealt with it.
Yeah, you know what?
Mother and father.
Yeah, so I I felt that it was important to show that aspect because this is an issue that impacts families. Like, this is something that happens, and the dynamic with families, like, you know, when you have a situation where, you know, your family is making decisions about your mental health, but there's a toxic situation in there. I thought it's very important. Also, I knew that it would resonate with other persons who've been through that kind of trauma. So I made the decision because, like, even while editing, right, and some stuff, I was like, I can't do this, you know, and whatever. And like, I like cut out some stuff, but then I sat down and I was like, you know, Roxanne, either you're going to make an impact or you're not, you know, you have to decide what, you know, you're going to do. And so I went back and I put the stuff back in that I was like, I'm not going to put this in there and stuff. But I'm really glad that I did, because so many women have talked to me since, and they've resonated with, you know, the issue with me and my husband, the domestic violence, or being survivors of childhood sexual abuse, or having an uncle or a dad or an older brother that was inappropriate. And I realized that, you know, that it is a difficult thing to put in there, but it's an issue that's more than just me, or bigger than just me. And I know that other people will see this and be like, but that happened to me. And that's my relationship with my family. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
I don't know if you've mentioned this, Roxanne, but have other people contacted you who experienced the same thing you experienced, that kind of thing, and they were trying to extricate themselves from that?
So people who have contacted me, most of them have not had a psychiatric issue. You know, a lot of people were like, I can't believe this actually happens, and my God, you know, and stuff. But it doesn't seem like people, well, at least the Jamaicans that I talked to, there was one Jamaican that reached out to me, and he was viciously abused at the Bellevue Hospital, because it's not even like just like with things like forced drugging. I mean, they beat people there and all sorts of stuff. So well, his situation was very different from what I had ever experienced. But yeah, so I mean, I showed it to my class. I'm doing like a diploma in social work right now, and like my class watched it, and like, so, and a lot of them are women, and they were like, oh my God, you know, and stuff. So they related in that way, but I don't think any of them had ever had an experience with psychiatry.
Here's an interesting statement that, on the question and answers. It's in quotations. It says, "Weep for the prophets and so-called psychotic visionaries who are robbed of their life-giving gifts from the gods by our culture of fear and human arrogance. And weep for us that we still treat the mad ones among us as lepers, when they are and always have been a divine source of the mana we need to survive on earth," unquote. And that's from Michael Cornwall.
You know what? I like to comment on that, because I remember, so when my experience with Dr. Frank Knight, and, you know, I was very lucid and stuff. And I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. So he asked me, you know, and I said, yeah, I believe in angels and demons and things like that, and spiritual entities, which most Seventh-day Adventists believe that, right? But he later gave a statement to me stating that her parents told him, he said, her parents said that she believes in angels and demonic forces. So with that, I believe that she has schizoaffective disorder. And that's why he made the decision he made. And it's like, are you going to arrest half Jamaica then? Because like most Jamaicans are very religious in some way, you know, or spiritual, or they believe in the supernatural. So this idea that, you know, if this person thinks that, you know, they believe in entities or they believe that they're a prophet or whatever, then you're going to get taken in and you're going to be drugged. Oh, somebody's asked, where did you get the skills to put all this together? So I worked in Jamaica for 10 years as a motion graphic artist and a video editor. So so that's where I got my editing skills from and my graphics and everything. So when I went to Ryerson to do my master's in journalism, that's when I kind of learned more about the cinematography stuff, which I wasn't that great at, but you know, I did my best and stuff. And then it was actually, things just fell together perfectly because I was volunteering at a refugee shelter and I met these refugees and I was like, hey, could I pay you guys to be in my movie? Like, would you play a doctor? Would you play me? Da, da, da. And they were all like, sure, you know, and I paid them peanuts. I had a very limited budget, but, you know, in comparison to what you should pay an actor or an actress. But, you know, these refugee claimants or asylum seekers came together. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing that, you know, refugee claimants were playing out the story of a refugee claimant. So that was really cool. But yeah, I've worked 10 years in media doing video editing and motion graphics.
Someone's asking if in my book, I say mental illness is fundamentally about mind, not brain. How do we get all psychiatrists on board with this? I have no idea. But I think that is the, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, that most psychiatrists would want to be on board with that, even if they believe that, because their forte is the brain. And so if mental illness isn't about the brain malfunctioning, then they would have little to stand on. So I'm not sure that we would get psychiatrists on board with that, except for the ones who are already on board with it, like Peter and Joe Tarantolo and some of the other people who, in their line of work, they're focused more on helping people struggle through these difficult episodes of life that we all struggle with, without looking at it as some kind of diseased brain.
Hey guys, I'm actually realizing that my babysitter was only supposed to be here until 8:30 and it is now 8:51. So I'm gonna have to go because yeah, they're tearing down the place in there.
Good time to stop, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good place to stop, and thank you for what you're doing, and stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you,
Definitely.
Roxanne. Congratulations again. Keep
Thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely still want to get this film out there, so I'll need all the help I can get in getting it to various platforms. So I will definitely be staying in touch too.
All right. Take care.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Chuck.
Take care.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thanks everybody for coming. We will be doing this Judy's Room every month with something different. Sometimes a film, sometimes a speaker, sometimes a panel discussion. Well, you guys have a good night and keep up the good fight. Thanks, Patrick, for interpreting. See you all again.